The heat hung heavy over Zarah, a city where time slowed under tradition and whispers carried faster than wind. It was a place where ceremonies were more than events. They were tests of legacy. In the heart of the city, behind iron gates and old brick walls, the compound of Alhaji Suleiman Damadami buzzed with anticipation. His only daughter Zarah was getting traditionally married. And not just to anyone. Kaleem Abdulrahman, a soft-spoken businessman known for his clean records and quiet success, had proposed less than a year ago. People said he made his first million importing solar panels. Others whispered about foreign investors and boardrooms. Nobody really knew, but everyone agreed on one thing: the man was serious. He arrived just after noon. His convoy of 4 black SUVs stirred the dust of Zarah's old quarter. Men stood as they passed. Women adjusted their wrappers. The elders exchanged glances. Kaleem stepped out, dressed in a sky blue kaftan with silver embroidery. His steps were measured. His smile brief. He didn't come to show off. He came for Zarah. The ceremony begins. Under the ceremonial canopy, the family elders are taking their places. The air smelled of fresh kola nuts and perfume oil. Zarah remained inside, hidden behind a silk curtain with the older women. It was a proud day for her father. Alhaji Suleiman was a former commissioner, a man who rose from poverty to power, known for its firmness and impossible standards. So when Kaleem and his family were led forward, everyone knew the real ceremony had just begun. The greetings were respectful, the introductions carefully chosen, and then the moment arrived. One of the elders handed Kaleem the bride price list. No one was surprised at its length. Bolts of fabric, yam tubers, gold trinkets, kola nuts, ceremonial wine, perfumes, trays of food, a fattened goat. It was tradition. But Kaleem did something unexpected. He turned to the elder and said politely, "We've brought the monetary equivalent of every item on this list, plus a small gift." It wasn't arrogance. It was practicality. Every item, every grain of rice had been calculated and paid for. Quiet murmurs rippled across the crowd. Was it allowed? Yes. Was it common? Not at all. Still, the family accepted. Some called it efficiency. Others called it bold. But the final moment remained. The real prize. It was time. The drum had paused. The compound fell quiet. Alhaji Suleiman stood, tall and expressionless. He glanced at Kaleem, then at the crowd. The younger men leaned forward. Phones were raised. This was the moment everyone had come to witness. The bride price, he said, is 10 million Zeda. 10 million. Gasp. One of Kaleem's uncles shifted uncomfortably. A whisper of tension passed through the air like static. The groom's side had come prepared. But 10 million? Still, Kaleem didn't flinch. He stepped forward, opened the black leather briefcase, and carefully lifted a bundle of fresh beads. Then another, and another, until 10 bundles rested in his hands. He handed them silently to Alhaji Suleiman. The old man took the money, turned it over, peeled back one note, headed to the light. People watched. Nobody breathed. Then with calm hands, he reached into the pile and pulled out a single 200 Zeta note. He handed the rest back to Kaleem and said, "This is the price for my daughter. The rest is yours, to build a future worthy of her." For a moment, no one reacted. Then came the tears, the applause, the silence that meant something real had just happened. Zarah, watching behind the curtain, covered her mouth with her hands. She had known her father as stern, cold, demanding. But in that moment, she saw the man who had carried her on his shoulders at 5 years old, who had made her read books instead of cartoons, who had taught her to fight for value over vanity. He didn't sell her, he honored her. And Kaleem, he had passed the test. But what neither of them knew was that this public display of humility was only the beginning. Not all traditions are kind. Not all families stay happy. And some shadows were already forming behind the applause. The morning after the bride price was returned made headlines, both in real life and online. Photos of Kaleem handing over the bundles, videos of Alhaji Suleiman holding up the single 200 Zeta notes, TikToks, commentaries, and praise poured in from all corners of Zarima and beyond. But behind the scenes, cracks were already forming. The dinner conversation. That night, as relatives feasted and the compound settled into laughter and soft music, Kaleem was invited to dine privately with Zarah's family. Her uncles, aunts, to cousins who lived abroad and had flown in just for the occasion. It started well. Jokes, toasts, praise for Kaleem's composure. But then came the shift. One uncle cleared his throat and said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, 10 million Zeta? And it gives it back? That's noble. But let's be realistic. Marriage isn't built on poetry. Another added, "We saw how prepared you were. We know your type. Calculated, careful. But in this family, we do things the right way." Kaleem looked up from his plate. "I intended no disrespect." "No one said you did," said the oldest cousin, leaning forward. "But don't be fooled. That money might have been returned, but expectations weren't." Zarah, seated beside him, shifted uncomfortably. Kaleem, ever composed, simply nodded. He didn't know what they meant yet, but he would soon. Whispers in the compound. The next few days were a blur of post-ceremony activities. Visits, blessings, family photos. Kaleem stayed with his own relatives at a nearby guest house, while Zarah remained in the family home. But slowly, Zarah began noticing things. The way her father's tone turned cold whenever Kaleem's name came up. How her mother kept saying things like, "Are you sure this is the life you want? And money isn't everything?" Even words, rumors. Someone overheard an aunt say Kaleem's business wasn't as clean as it seemed. That he owed people. That he faked success to appear eligible. Zarah confronted her mother. "Is this true? Are you listening to gossip now?" But the older woman only sighed. "People don't lie without reason, Zarah. And we must protect you." Zarah knew her family. She knew how pride masked itself as concern. Still, doubt crept in. She called Kaleem that night. "Babe, are you hiding anything from me?" There was silence. Then a quiet no. Why? She wanted to believe him, but something in his pulse had changed everything. The call that changed it all. 2 days before the white wedding, Kaleem received a call. It was a man, anonymous, but polite. "I know you're preparing for a wedding, but some people aren't ready to let it happen." Kaleem froze. "Who is this?" "Does it matter? But listen, your father-in-law didn't return that money to honor you. He did it to test your patience. He believes you won't last. He thinks you're bluffing your way into the family. And if you think he'll stand by quietly while his daughter marries someone he doesn't control, you don't know him." Click. Kaleem sat on the edge of his hotel bed, hand trembling slightly. He didn't believe in fear. But this was different. This was personal. He called Zarah. "I need to see you, alone, tomorrow." The meeting at the garden. They met at the old public garden behind Zarah City Mosque, one of the few quiet places left untouched by construction and chaos. Zarah wore a plain abaya. Kaleem came alone. "I got a call," he said. She blinked. "From who?" He shook his head. "I don't know. But they said your father is planning something." Zarah stared at him. "Like what?" He looked at her carefully. "You tell me. Has he said anything?" She hesitated. "It hasn't been warm, but that's how he eats. You know that." "I'm not afraid of him," Kaleem said. "But I won't walk into a house where I'm expected to kneel forever." Zarah's voice dropped. "So what do you want to do?" Kaleem looked away. The wedding was in 48 hours. Guests had arrived. Vendors were paid. But his instincts told him something was off. Something deeper than cold glares and quiet insults. A trap was being set. And unless he figured it out, he wouldn't just lose Zarah. He would lose everything. Zarah returned home from the secret garden meeting with a knot in her chest. She had barely entered the family compound when her aunt intercepted her. "You were out long. Where did you go?" Zarah didn't answer. She didn't have to. The question wasn't curiosity, it was surveillance. Every step she took lately felt like it was being tracked. Every word measured. Inside, the compound was being transformed. A rented tent was already rising in the courtyard. Caterers buzzed around with trays of spices and coolers of meats. Loudspeakers were being tested. Everyone was preparing for a celebration. Everyone except Zarah. She climbed to her room, shut the door, and locked it behind her. There, sitting on her bed, was her little brother, Malik, holding a phone. Kaleem's name kept flashing. He said innocently. I didn't open it. She smiled tiredly. Thanks, Malik. That's okay. But as soon as he left, she called Kaleem. They are planning something. I can feel it. We have to be ready. But neither of them knew just how ready they needed to be. The whisper that broke the room. That night, Kaleem and his best man, Tai, went for a final review meeting with the wedding committee. It was supposed to be routine. Confirm vendors, guest list, security. But halfway through, one of the wedding planners leaned in and whispered something that stopped Kaleem cold. Sir, word is going around that your bride might not show up. Kaleem stared. What do you mean? I don't know if it's from her or her family, but I overheard two of the aunts saying, let him spend everything. We'll see if the wedding still holds. Kaleem stood abruptly. The room went silent. What else did you hear? Just that they are watching to see if you react. That the real plan is to embarrass you publicly. Maybe even cancel last minute. Taye put Kaleem aside. We can't ignore this, bro. If they want to humiliate you, they'll do it in front of everyone. You know her father. Kaleem's jaw tightened. His face stayed calm, but his mind raced. This wasn't just family tension. This was sabotage. He looked at Tai. This was sabotage. He looked at Tai. Then, but planned differently. Plan B. The next morning, while the rest of the city was preparing for a lavish wedding, Kaleem was preparing an alternate plan. He called his lawyer, quietly moved funds, alerted close friends who had connections in the press, and then he made one more call to Zarah. We can't trust this ceremony. I know, but if they try to trap us, we won't walk in blind. They made a pact. If anything changed, if a family tried to block her, delay her, or keep her from the ceremony, she should send him one simple message. Weather changed. That will be the signal to walk away, to expose the truth and preserve their dignity, even if it meant walking away from the altar. The day of the wedding. The sky was cloudless. The compound was glowing with decoration, white and gold, traditional fabrics woven with fine thread. The entire city of Zarima seemed to hold his breath. Kaleem arrived dressed in ivory agbada with deep blue embroidery, calm, poised, powerful. People turned, phones rose. Zarah's side of the family was ready. Our uncles were in full attire. Our aunts were smiling too widely. Our father stood at the gate, expression unreadable. But Zarah? Nowhere in sight. Kaleem's heart beat slower, measured, deliberate. He greeted the elders, took his seat under the main canopy, waited. A half hour passed. Still no bride. Whispers started. A murmur here, a side eye there. Then a message burst on his phone. From Zarah. Weather changed. He stared at the screen for 5 long seconds, then stood up. The room hushed. He nodded at Tai. Then calmly, without a single word, Kaleem turned and walked out of the ceremony. The silence that shook the city. No one understood what was happening. Alhaji Suleiman stepped forward, confused. The aunts whispered, panicked, guests stood, cameras rolled. But Kaleem didn't explain. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He just left. Within the hour, his lawyer released a statement to the press. Mr. Kaleem Abdulrahman has withdrawn from the marriage ceremony due to internal sabotage and deliberate interference by members of the bride's extended family. He regrets the impact of those who came in good faith. He will speak no further. The story exploded. Half the city blamed Zarah's family. The other half demanded answers. And inside the compound, hidden in a room, Zarah wept. Not because her groom left, but because he had to. The morning after the aborted wedding, Zarah woke to a city buzzing with questions and rumors. News outlets debated endlessly, while social media exploded with opinions. But inside the family compound, a storm raged far from the public eye. Confrontation in the family room. Zarah sat stiffly on the edge of the family's ornate sofa. Her father, Alhaji Suleiman, paced before her, his face a mask of controlled anger. Why did you send him away? Do you want to bring shame on this family? She met his eyes, steady but firm. I didn't send him away. You did. Alhaji's voice hardened. He was not ready for this responsibility. He showed weakness. Zarah shook her head. It was your family who set the trap. You tested him like he was some king piece. A mother entered quietly. Zarah, we only want what's best for you. This man isn't the one. Tears welled in Zarah's eyes. If he isn't the one, then who? Her father turned away. Silence filled the room. The decision. Days passed in a tense silence. Zarah withdrew from public view, avoiding even close friends. But one afternoon, her phone buzzed. A message from Kaleem. I'm not done. Neither should you be. She stared at the words, heart pounding. They met again, this time in a quiet cafe outside Zarah, away from judgment and tradition. Kaleem looked at her with calm determination. We have to decide if this is worth fighting for, not for the ceremony or the money, but for us. Zarah nodded. I want to fight. Facing the family again. The next meeting with the family was the hardest. Alhaji Suleiman was 10, but this time Zarah stood taller. I will marry Kaleem on my terms, with or without your blessing. Her father's jaw clenched. Her mother's eyes shimmered with tears. You risk everything. I risk my happiness, and that's worth everything. The family's silence was the answer. A new beginning. With renewed strength, Zarah and Kaleem began planning, not for a grand ceremony, but a union based on trust, respect, and love. They reached out to the community, shared their story honestly, and gradually, respect replaced doubt. Zarah would remember their story, not for the money or the broken wedding, but for the courage it took to stand for what mattered most. The months that followed were nothing like the grand wedding Zarah had expected. There were no extravagant tents or thousands of guests. Instead, there was quiet strength, a bond tested by fire and found unbreakable. Breaking the mold. Zarah and Kaleem chose a simple civil ceremony, held in a modest hall filled with only close friends and a few supportive family members. The event was intimate, genuine, stripped of all pretense. When Zarah walked down the aisle, it was not with fear or doubt, but with the steady confidence of someone who had claimed her future with her own hands. Kaleem smiled, eyes bright with promise, knowing that this union was forged not by tradition or money, but by mutual respect and love. Changing hearts. Word of the wedding spread across Zarah, stirring conversations in homes and markets. Some elders grumbled about broken customs, but many others, inspired by their courage, began to question outdated traditions that valued wealth over character. Zarah's father, Alhaji Suleiman, who had once insisted on a 10 million Zaida bride price, slowly softened. In private moments, he told friends, I was blinded by pride, but seeing the devotion, I understand now. True value cannot be measured in money. Legacy of the story. Zarah and Kaleem didn't just marry. They became symbols of courage, love, and the power to redefine tradition. Together, they started a foundation to support young couples facing similar pressures, a place to seek guidance and stand strong against the weight of impossible expectations. A final word from Zarah. In a heartfelt message shared on social media, Zarah wrote, "The price of love is not measured in currency or ceremony. It is paid in patience, respect, and the courage to be true to yourself. We are more than traditions. We are human." The city of Zarah remembers the wedding that wasn't just a celebration, but a revolution. Because sometimes the greatest bride price paid is the price of breaking free.